This is the 25th anniversary of Richard Petty's 200th victory, which came in the 1984 Firecracker 400s, July 4th, 1984. Ken Willis and Godwin Kelly, your favorite Motormouths from the Daytona Beach News Journal, here with you. Hello, Godwin.
Hello, Mr. Willis.
This is a special Motormouths you watch from the press box up top.
Yep, I had a good seat
I was
there.
a buck private, as they would say. I was a part-timer in the department then. I was down in the infield in the garage area, which means I didn't see much unless I watched it on the television in the media center.
Right.
And we were trying to see what we remembered about that race, but really we remembered nothing about that race except the end of it.
Which, if you think about it, isn't that normal? I mean...
well, you do. Normally, you'll remember also about when it's a Daytona race, you'll remember the big wreck. You'll remember some big favorite dropping out early or something. Of course, those were the pre-restrictor plate days. The plates didn't come till 4 years later. And so the field's more spread out. You don't have that 20 and 30 car pack.
Right.
So you didn't have as many big ones as you do during plate racing. So in the cars, when you look at the highlights, the cars they don't look too unlike they do today. Some of them cars, the car Petty won in that day was this boxy looking car.
Right.
And which is similar in many respects to the car of tomorrow that they're running now. So it's almost like a
deja vu all over again.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
At that point in time, Richard Petty was a 7-time champion. His legend was built.
Right.
He had won 7 championships. Cale Yarborough his legend was also built.
Right.
I mean, he won 3 straight championships at one point. His best years in NASCAR were with Junior Johnson. Cale Yarborough was a giant at Daytona. I mean, he loved Daytona. He ran fast, and he was a great big track driver. We were watching a replay of those final few laps. They took the green flag, lap 157. They go past the stripe. 3 laps to go, and that's when it got pretty interesting. Cale and Richard were clear of the field. They were running 1-2, and they had everybody covered. Nobody was going to catch them.
Right, and Cale supposedly had the stronger car,
yes.
And he was just following Petty. He was just trolling along there. I mean, just...
That was the old Hardee's days.
Yeah.
The Hardee's chicken car.
Yeah. And so he had the class of the field as far as the car goes. He was just waiting for the moment when the moment was right.
And then all of a sudden, this wreck, Doug Hevron. With 3 laps to go.
In turn 1.
That's right. He wrecks. They get on the radio, yellow flags out. So now in those days, the field wasn't frozen. You raced back to the stripe.
Petty and Yarborough had not crossed the line, and it was clearly there was the accident in 1.
Right.
Okay, but they had not crossed the line, and I remember the flagman holding the yellow flag.
Right.
Okay, and he could have thrown it on those guys right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. And so that would have been whoever crossed first.
What happened is they waited till those 2 cars went by, then they threw the flag. So now... Nice
move.
Now you got a race to the finish.
And it's a full 1-lap race, basically.
Yeah, it's a 1-lap shootout.
And they're dicing going down the backstretch. And Cale now, instead of waiting until the last lap to make his slingshot move, this is, for all intents and purposes, the last lap.
Right.
Because they're going to come around and they're going to take the yellow flag. There's going to be 2 laps left. They're now under caution. There's no way you're going to have any racing left.
It's lap 158
of 160.
Yes. Both of them, first of all, both of them know the deal.
Yep.
Okay, they both know they're racing for the win. Yep. They get down the straightaway.
Backstretch.
Right. Yep. And then Yarborough pulls out, makes the pass.
Yep.
Okay, on the high side.
Well,
I believe, right?
Your memory may not be serving. Going into turn 3, he did pass Petty, and then he washed up the track between 3 and 4. Now Petty pulls the move we saw Earnhardt make 1,000 times.
The crossover.
Yarborough goes high, so he repasses him down low coming out of 4.
Right.
But he never gets all the way around him. So now they're side by side.
Side by side, coming out of turn 4.
Touch a couple of times.
Touch.
They came down to the line side by side. Petty won the race by a foot or so, basically because he was on the inside.
He was on the inside.
And that little bit, because you go through that dogleg turn there, coming to the stripe, and that being on the inside saved him that little bit of ground, and that's what he won.
And also, if you look at the video closely, like we did, to refresh our memories, it looks like Petty comes up on Yarborough just a little bit there. Yeah, just a little bit.
Well, they
before.
always say they say one of the tricks of the trade when you're side by side with a guy, if you get right up to him and then pull away, it kind of gives you a little, just a little push. Just a little push.
That's
all he needed because he won by about that much.
Really.
And it's Richard Petty by a foot at the finish line. Richard Petty beating Cale Yarborough for his 200th career win.
Well, just, super watching a Winston Cup Series. And, from that standpoint, it just had to be the best thing going for us that could have been. And it couldn't have come at a better place because of Daytona.
The President of the United States.
These United States. Yeah.
Ronald Reagan.
Of America.
He was in the
Upstairs.
executive suite.
In the suite sitting next to Bill Jr.
Yep. And he had an obligation in the morning that was in the Washington area.
Yes.
And then they figured they could get him into Air Force One and shoot him down here pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And he actually started the race from Air Force One.
He gave the starting command via telephone.
Via telephone.
So it's a natural. I mean, 4th of July weekend, or in those days, the 4th of July is when the race was run. And
the 4th of July.
And so it was 4th of July is a big campaign day in election years. And
then at one point, Reagan got on MRN, helped call the race with Ned Jarrett.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's memorable. After the race, I was so busy, getting all my stuff done.
Yes.
That I couldn't do the picnic down in the
go down to
garage
the
area.
picnic. Well, I don't think you were invited. I wasn't invited. A lot of us weren't invited to that. That was kind of a high roller affair. As part of the 25th anniversary celebration with Richard Petty this week, he was at a function at Daytona State College on Wednesday night, and he was a guest of honor along with Mike Curb, his car owner from the mid-'80s. And we had a chance to chat with the king. You mind if I tell everybody how old you're turning this week?
Yeah, you can try it.
72.
That's me.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't imagine that part of it.
You're almost as old as James Hilton. Conrad Hilton.
I don't think that might be what part of it, though.
We were watching replays of the race, that last lap of the 84 Firecracker, and you and Cale appear to be fairly equal horsepower-wise, if you just by judging how close you guys were together. Coming down through that dog leg, you had the advantage of being on the inside.
Right.
And then there was a little contact right before the stripe. You kind of got into him, or he came down, and there was some contact between the two of you. What do you think was the key to you finishing a foot or so ahead of him? Having just that inside line?
Just having the inside line. What happens when cars are pretty close together as far as horsepower and what they run, and then when they do get hung side by side, then it's hard for one to just have enough horsepower to pull away from the other because of the way the draft goes around both the cars. Yeah. And so we just got stuck together.
Yeah.
And the deal was that we came off of 4 all the way down the start-finish line side by side, and when I went around a shorter groove, then I was able to beat him by a couple of feet. So if he'd have been on the inside, he'd have won the race.
How do you stay so slim?
Just running around. You're going over every day. In fact, I'm a lot busier now than it was when I drove the car, or even when I owned the car. And now we've got the Richard Petty Motorsports up and running.
All these receptions you go to, you're too busy posing and signing to eat.
Yeah, that don't give you much of a chance. If they have a sit-down deal, you're usually okay. But if they let them wander around and eat, that's just about time you get your plate full.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to take a picture or sign an autograph, so you put it down, and then you never go back.
Or have their duck autographed, right?
I've done that too.
Duck is still the strangest thing you ever autographed.
That was strange.
And it wasn't cooked. It was an actual duck.
It was a North Carolina State Fair, and the guy we signed autographs. The guy come up and said, "Got something for you to sign." I said, "Go get it." Come back with a live duck, and he spread the wings and I signed across the wing. And I just wonder if he went around and picked up all the feathers and put Richard Petty back together.
I'm thinking I'm the last person on earth without a Richard Petty autograph, so I was thinking I had to remedy that tonight. I brought my own Sharpie.
We'll fix it right up.
Hard to sign a round surface, isn't it?
There it is, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir, baby.
There you go. If you check eBay later, you too can own a baseball of Richard Petty's autograph.
Just give me my cut.
That's right. Thank you, King. Always a race car driver wanting his cut.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Appreciate it.